now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. Everett Hartsoe, the creator of the Razor comic book, proposed a question to me on Facebook. And this question was, is Hollywood a thing anymore, or has the luster worn off? And the reason why he asked that question is because back over 25, 30 years ago, Hollywood was the place you wanted to go if you wanted to go out here and produce any sort of movie or television show. And the mainstream publishing industry was the place to go if you wanted to publish a book and turn it into a movie. So Hollywood was the place everybody aspired to go if they wanted to go out here and make some serious money on a concept like a movie, a screenplay, or an adaptation of a book. But as time has gone by, and over the last, I say, 10 to 15 years, I believe that Hollywood no longer has the luster it had over 30, 35 years ago. And the reason why I believe that Hollywood has lost a lot of luster is because technology has caught up with people. And as technology has caught up with people, people are now able to go out here and make their own media. And that was something many people used to laugh at back in the mid-2000s. And I remember many bloggers out here roasting people who went out here and published their own books through print-on-demand technology. And they would mock us published authors through print-on-demand and say that our books were poor quality, our books had bad covers, our books had bad page layout. But these days, the print-on-demand book is now the industry standard, and many independent authors are out here getting their books to the marketplace and producing product that is on the same level as a publishing house. And what I'm seeing right now as related to film and television is individuals are catching up with Hollywood right now, and that's why Hollywood isn't a thing anymore, because people now can go out here and make movies with a whole bunch of iPhones, and then they can go out here, get themselves a Mac computer, get some Final Cut Pro, and they can go and put together their own movie. Now, if you have a little bit more money, you can go out here and go rent yourself some digital red cameras and film your own movie. And with all of these people getting access to technology, which is making production a lot cheaper these days, we have a lot of people looking at making their own entertainment. And that's been the trend ever since, I say, about 2006, when YouTube came along and changed the way we saw media. Because back when your internet was in its mid-stage, YouTube came along, people were able to broadcast themselves, and they were able to go out here and create their own content. And as people began creating their own content and finding their own voice, what happened was we started to see people start to migrate from television and radio and your mainstream media like newspapers and magazines, and they've started to migrate over to the internet. And now we have more people watching YouTubers in some cases than they go out here and watch your regular TV shows like your Maury's and Jerry Springers, like the masses did in the 90s. So we have a lot of people who go out here these days, as I know, that wait for me to put up a new video. And when it comes down to productions these days, people can go out here and make their own media and make their own content. And that's why Hollywood has lost its luster, I say, over the last decade, because people no longer really look at Hollywood as the standard. They're going out here and making productions up to their own standard. And they're going out here and making film and TV shows that are on the same level. I remember watching some black sci-fi shows like The Body Snatchers, and I've watched fan-made films that are on the level in production as the level of many of these movies out here. So we've got a lot of people making their own content, and that's why nobody really cares that much about Hollywood anymore, and that's reflected in the box office for a lot of these movies. We're starting to see a lot of these movies that are coming out, they're not really making the money anymore, and we're seeing a lot of these TV shows not really getting the ratings anymore. And the reason why that is because when the creative power is in people's hands and they have access to resources to make their own productions, they no longer have to depend on Hollywood anymore to go out here and wait for their process to go through a script. Now, as a screenwriter, I know what that process is, and I know how long that process used to be. I mean, you used to go out here and you would write a spec screenplay, and then after you would go out here and try to query one of these agents, you would have to wait months and even years for them to even possibly get back to you. And then you would have to, even if you got lucky and got one of them to read your script, then you would have to wait even longer, hoping they would represent you. And then you would have to wait even longer in the hopes of trying to get a representation, hopes of that they would be able to sell your script, and eventually hope you get a green light. And all throughout that process, you would have to sit there and make all sorts of compromises, because if they went out here and bought your script, chances are your script would not even look like whatever you wrote. And they would go out here, and after they bought your script at a low price, they would go out here, then hire another screenwriter, and then have them rewrite your script, and then eventually go out here and make a film that looks absolutely nothing like you wrote. And that's one of the reasons why so many creative people are not even bothering with Hollywood anymore, because they are just tired of jumping through hoops. They are tired of dealing with a bureaucratic process of querying that can take years, and they're tired of having to deal with all of the politics as related to Hollywood, because when you try to get financing, you have to make compromises with these people as related to these millionaires and billionaires and their politics, and they want to have what they want featured in a film. But you don't have, a lot of people don't have to do that anymore. And the reason why they don't have to do it anymore is because they can go out here and get a project crowdfunded. They can go out here on a platform like Kickstarter and get the money to pay for principal production. And I remember watching actress Sally Richardson Whitfield do this for a play she did called A Lady Must Live, which was about the life of Lena Horne. She went out here, raised the funds on Kickstarter, and got that play produced. And many other filmmakers I've seen, like Jason Black and Professor Black Truth and Tariq Nasheed, have gone out here and gotten their documentaries funded through crowdfunding. So people no longer really need Hollywood anymore to make their media, and that's why Hollywood has lost its luster. And that luster has turned into a tarnish over the last couple of years, because as people have moved on to making their own media, we have started to see Hollywood become more and more disconnected. And as they've become more and more disconnected, what they have been doing is trying to hold on to the past by making remakes and reboots of the same old intellectual properties, because many of these people in Hollywood, they don't want to change, and they don't want to go out here and share wealth with a new generation of creators. It's almost like the dark days of the 1960s and 1970s, when Hollywood was on its last legs, and they refused to admit that the audience's taste had changed, because the baby boomer teenagers were learning more and more about the Vietnam War, and they weren't interested in seeing movies talking about epic World War II battles, or going out here watching musicals where people were smiling and dancing. Meanwhile, their friends and family members are coming home from Vietnam in body bags, or dealing with a whole host of mental health trauma as related to the Vietnam War. And because Hollywood refused to go out here and listen to those young baby boomers back then, guys like Melvin Van Peebles and Tom Laughlin came in with movies like Sweet Sweetback and Born Losers and got their audience. And your Tom Laughlin came out and introduced the whole blockbuster model because his film had people waiting around the corner to go watch Born Losers. So the Hollywood, what's happening now is they've lost their luster, they've lost their way, and that can be seen in what many people call many of these so-called woke films out here. And these woke films, which feature a whole host of token diversity, identity politics, this is the stuff that has alienated a generation of viewers and has them turned off because they see the paternalism and the pandering, and that has a lot of people not even interested in watching Hollywood films or even thinking about submitting scripts to be approved for this whole green light process. No, most people are saying, look, we've got this technology and all I have to do is go buy 4 or 5 iPhones like iPhone 12 or iPhone XR, and I've got HD cameras and I can make movie studio quality films with these phones, and then I can go edit it on my Mac on a Final Cut Pro at the lowest budget, or I can go out here and rent some digital red cameras for 30 days and still be able to make this film and make it for extremely low price in the same style that Robert Rodriguez did back in the 90s when he went out here, and I think he made the first of the mariachi films. So you don't really need a lot of money to go out here and make a great film anymore. All you need to do is have a great vision, and you can go out here and make a great film. And that's what's happening now, and this is why Hollywood is starting to decline and starting to wane in popularity, because most people see they no longer need Hollywood, and they no longer need Hollywood entertainment in order to find a good quality story. More and more people are going to places like Kickstarter for comics and TV and movies in some cases, and Indiegogo for TV, movies, and books. And they're going to these platforms because the creators there, they are listening to the audience, and they're going out here and giving the audience the products that they want. Because your Hollywood, because they're disconnected and detached, they're still so caught up in trying to give people what they want. They're not listening to the customer. They're not seeing how the world has changed, and they're not really trying to give people the kinds of films and social commentaries that people got back in the 70s with films like The Godfather, and they're not trying to give us the type of action and entertainment we got with films like Star Wars in the 70s and films in the 80s like Terminator and Back to the Future. No, everything these days is all about preaching, and people don't want to be preached to, and they don't want somebody spending their time telling them about a problem, because most people go to the movies, they go to TV, they go to comic books, they go for an escape, and your Hollywood doesn't really understand what their business is anymore. People are going to want to escape. They want to escape their problems, but Hollywood wants to give people their problems, and that's why Hollywood is tarnished, and that's why they've lost their luster, because they've lost their connection to the audience, and they've lost their ability to listen to the audience and give them what they want. So that's where a lot of independent creators are now coming in, and they're going to go out here and make the money as related to entertainment, because Hollywood no longer listens to independent creators anymore, and they don't listen to the audience anymore. People come to them, like I used to come to them with scripts for my book All About Maryland, which was a screenplay. I came to the entertainment industry looking to try to query that project, but I ran into a lot of racism, so I had to walk away from Hollywood because they don't really want to go out here and create black entertainment that presents a balanced, humanized image. No, they want to go out here and produce these woke forms of media which breathe brand new life into old stereotypes, and that's why so many black people are walking away from your Hollywood type media over to new black media. And all of these new media platforms are all designed because Hollywood is no longer a thing anymore. Hollywood lost its luster, I believe, around 2011, 2012 or so, and they are no longer a thing anymore. They are now tarnished, and that was shown to us by the horrible ratings for the Golden Globes and the Oscars. At one time back in the 90s, these were must-see TV, but now nobody cares about the Oscars or the Golden Globes because the art house crap movies that they make are nothing more than just pretentious garbage that is designed to sate the egos of a few elites, but not make a commentary that most of the people out here can get behind and see as great entertainment. Hollywood has lost its way from the days when they were making great films from people like Billy Wilder, like Sunset Boulevard, and great television like Rod Serling did with The Twilight Zone. Hollywood has lost its way, and what's interesting is that people are finding their way, and they're finding their way towards other great creators like myself and Everett Hartsoe and many other great creators out here, and they're finding their way to content that they like on platforms like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or indie publishers like I am on Amazon, and they're supporting those independent creators and those independent filmmakers on those platforms, and those audiences are growing, and that's something that Hollywood really has not caught on to because they are still in their little insular bubble, and because they're still in their insular bubble, they can't see the reality is that shine that Hollywood once had back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the early 90s has worn off. And as that luster has worn off, it has become a tarnish, and now people see Hollywood as a relic of the past as they move forward in a new, different entertainment industry. Now, Everett Hartsoe has a new Kickstarter, I believe, for his comic Bayonet up, and I'm going to leave a link to that in the description box. And if you want to support my SJS Direct comics, not comics like E-Steam No Good Deed, you can find that on Kindle for 99 cents. And if you want to pick up some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available on Kindle, E-Steam No Good Deed. The Devil's Diva scares some stick-up kids straight in this action-packed E-Steam series comic. Get E-Steam No Good Deed on Kindle for 99 cents today.